The film opens on a shadowy night in Italy, where a family is on their way to what appears to be a picturesque holiday. Upon arriving, the parents eagerly exit the car, momentarily leaving their child behind, as if they'd forgotten him briefly. The next morning, we're introduced to another family, the Daltons, Ben, Louise, and their young daughter, Agnes, who have arrived at the same location for a break from their routine. This place serves as a sort of family retreat, where multiple families gather to relax and escape daily life. While Agnes's parents enjoy the sun, a man approaches Ben, casually requesting his sun lounger before moving it over to his own family. This group, made up of Patty, his wife Sierra, and their son Ant, exudes an unusual energy that makes them stand out. Later, Ben and Louise decide to step out, leaving Agnes in the care of a babysitter. Upon returning, they cross paths with Patty and Sierra again, and although Ben notes their peculiarity, nothing significant happens just yet. During a quiet dinner that evening, the families are chatting with other guests when an incident arises. Agnes loses her treasured stuffed toy, Hoppy. In an unexpected twist, Patty and Sierra reappear with Hoppy in hand, introducing their son Ant in the process. Patty, ever energetic, offers Agnes a ride on his motorbike. Initially hesitant, her parents eventually agree after some consideration. Patty takes Agnes for a brief ride, and upon their return, he invites Ben and Louise to join him and Sierra for dinner at a nearby restaurant, suggesting they get to know each other better. At dinner, they discuss their professions and share thoughts on possible shared experiences. Patty, full of cheer, remarks on how he's a genuinely happy person, noticing Ben and Louise's more serious demeanor. Mid of the conversation, Agnes interrupts to ask if she can go play with Ant. Although her parents are hesitant, they agree, allowing her to have some fun. During the chat, Patty unexpectedly mentions that his son has an unusually small tongue, which makes it difficult for him to communicate and connect with other children. In their typically lively manner, Patty and Sierra propose a toast to celebrate their new friendships. However, Agnes's family, who live in London, are soon set to return home. Tensions between Ben and Louise surface as their relationship is strained. Ben has recently lost his job, leading to frequent arguments. Trying to lift Ben's spirits, Louise mentions a letter they received from Patty, enthusiastically recalling the memorable week they spent together in Italy and inviting them to visit for a weekend. Ben, keen for a change of scenery and new adventure, is excited by the idea, while Louise is more cautious, pointing out that they barely know Patty's family. Still, they eventually agree that a change might do them some good. The journey to Patty and Sierra's remote farm, far from London, is long and tiring. After hours on the road, they finally arrive to a warm, lively welcome from Patty and Sierra, who offer them drinks, maintaining their usual carefree vibe. When Ant learns of their arrival, he doesn't seem thrilled. In the kitchen, Patty proudly presents blood oranges from Italy and declares he sacrificed his prized goose from the farm for the occasion. The main course will be blood orange goose, a family tradition where the first bite is offered to a woman. Despite Louise having previously mentioned she's vegetarian, she is given the first taste, and although the moment is awkward, dinner continues without further incident. Later, feeling a bit overwhelmed, Ben steps outside, where he encounters Ant, who tries to say something but becomes frustrated due to his speech struggles. Patty arrives, curtly sending Ant to bed and ending the interaction. Later, Ben and Louise discuss their purpose for the trip with Patty and Sierra, concluding that the experience feels like a digital detox, a retreat not only from people but from technology as well, given that there's no internet access. Despite this, Louise feels uneasy about having eaten meat, especially knowing their host sacrificed a prized goose for them. As they prepare for bed, they notice a dried blood stain on the mattress but dismiss it, assuming the room simply hasn't been used for some time. They chat about the differences in lifestyle between them and Patty's eccentric family, and Louise remarks on how unusual it is for a doctor like Patty to live in such an isolated area. Ben reassures her, suggesting perhaps Patty works for a charity and prefers to spend his money on travel. Just then, Agnes appears, saying she can't sleep. They use a breathing app to help her relax, and soon the whole family drifts off. The following day, the two families go on a hike around the area, setting up a campfire and spotting a fox. While they're enjoying coffee, Agnes complains that Ant won't let her join in his games. Patty reacts immediately, forcing his son to play with Agnes, which makes Louise uncomfortable. She also experiences neck pain, prompting Patty, as a doctor, to recommend cold water therapy. When they reach the river, they notice a peculiar scar on Sierra's abdomen. She explains it was from a fall off a ladder, but the group doesn't dwell on it. They all jump into the water for a bit of fun, and even though Ant doesn't seem to know how to swim, Sierra assures them that Patty always takes good care of him. With encouragement, Louise eventually joins them, and they all enjoy a moment of relaxation. On the return to Patty's house, they nearly encounter an accident due to a technical issue, adding strain between Ben and Louise. She suggests using her neck pain as an excuse to leave early, but Sierra appears, inviting them to a special dinner at a local restaurant known for its excellent food. She explains that a skilled local hunter named Mike will be preparing the evening's meal, assuring them it's a fantastic place to unwind. They agree to go, and before setting off, Patty announces that the children won't be joining them for the adults-only evening. For the night, he's hired a babysitter that someone he says fled a war and is working under the radar but is dependable and trustworthy. As Ben and Louise, having left Agnes with babysitters before, feel comfortable and quickly head out, speeding off as Patty prefers. When they arrive at the restaurant, Patty reveals they'll be the only patrons that evening. They meet Mike, the chef, who hunts for his own ingredients. During dinner, Louise reminds them she's a vegetarian, prompting apologies for the previous night's goose. Fortunately, as she eats fish, they serve her a seafood dish instead. Meanwhile, back at the house, the children play hide-and-seek with the babysitter. During the game, Ant shows Agnes a collection of Patty's watches. Just before they're found, he tells her to stay quiet, and they carry on playing. Back at the restaurant, Patty and Sierra begin sharing personal details about their relationship, revealing they've been together for 17 years and are still quite intimate, with regular, nightly encounters. This contrasts sharply with Ben and Louise's relationship, as Louise admits they're intimate barely once a month. Sierra flirts openly with Patty, and the pair playfully trick Ben and Louise, eventually leaving them with the bill. Meanwhile, at the house, Ant shows Agnes disturbing marks, explaining they're from when his father Patty hits him. When the mothers arrive home, the kids pretend to be asleep. Later, Ben and Louise have an argument, with Ben bringing up past compromising messages he found on Louise's phone from another man. Louise apologizes, reminding him that she supported him when he lost his job and helped him through it. She also confesses that recent events have made her question whether Ben is still with her out of love or fear of being alone. After this candid conversation, they reconcile, promising to work on their relationship. After the argument, Louise checks on Agnes but finds her missing from her bed. Concerned, she searches the house and discovers Agnes asleep in Patty and Sierra's room. Outraged, she quickly gathers her daughter, packs their belongings, and insists they leave. As they drive away, Ant watches sadly as Agnes departs. After a lengthy drive, Agnes suddenly remembers her beloved stuffed toy, Hoppy. Realizing it's missing, she becomes increasingly distressed until she struggles to breathe. When they can't find Hoppy in their belongings, they reluctantly decide to turn back to Patty's house, knowing how attached Agnes is to it. Upon returning, Louise explains to Sierra that they'd left hastily because she found Agnes in their bed, which made her uncomfortable. Sensing the tension, Sierra reveals a painful memory. They once had a daughter, Mary, who died at 12 weeks old. When she heard Agnes crying, her maternal instincts led her to comfort her. Sierra's sincere apology eases the tension, and the Dalton family decides to stay a bit longer, especially as Agnes insists she can't leave, feeling compelled to help her new friend Ant. As the mothers chat, the children paint together. During this, Ant tries to convey an important message to Agnes, writing something down, though she can't understand it. When Agnes tells her mother, Louise dismisses it as mere scribbles. However, Agnes can't produce the message as Ant, out of fear, swallowed it. Meanwhile, Patty invites Ben for a walk, confiding that he overheard their argument and understands how tough it is to deal with infidelity, even though Ben insists it was just a few texts. Patty encourages him to release his emotional baggage and offers to help. In a therapeutic gesture, Patty takes Ben to a secluded spot where they scream as loud as they can, sharing a sense of relief and happiness. Back at the house, Louise accidentally cuts her hand while preparing food. Ben, feeling relaxed with a doctor in the house, doesn't worry too much. In a surprising twist, Patty suddenly admits he's not actually a doctor. Confused, they remind him that he said he was in Italy, to which Patty jokingly replies that they just get by selling a few drugs. After a tense moment, he laughs, clarifying it was just a joke and that he really is a doctor. During lunch, Sierra starts teaching Agnes table manners, which unsettles Louise, feeling her parental role is undermined. Upset, she asks Sierra to stop, reminding her she knows how to raise her own child. Sensing the tension, Patty explains that Sierra grew up in an orphanage, which may explain her impulse to correct and teach other children. Feeling guilty, Louise apologizes, diffusing the situation. Later, the kids eagerly perform a dance routine they've been practicing. However, Ant struggles with the rhythm, frustrating Patty, who demands they start over repeatedly. Agnes becomes uncomfortable and no longer wants to participate, creating a tense atmosphere. To break the awkwardness, the adults drink more than usual. When Patty finally falls asleep, Louise suggests it's a perfect moment to leave, as things are becoming too bizarre. However, Ben, still a bit tipsy, prefers to stay a bit longer to have coffee and make sure nothing goes wrong. At that moment, Sierra warns Louise against leaving before Patty wakes, hinting it could be dangerous for her and Ant. She suggests they need to keep up appearances. Meanwhile, Ant sneaks his father's keys, then throws his ball toward the chickens, leading Agnes to the basement. There, he shows her something alarming: a collection of suitcases belonging to previous guests and old photographs. Ant reveals a dark truth: Patty isn't his real father, and his actual father was killed and had his tongue cut out. It also appears Patty and Sierra may be responsible for the disappearance of several families. Thinking quickly, Ant urges Agnes to take photos with her phone as evidence. They manage to leave the basement unnoticed. When they return, Ant sees Patty awake, displaying a more affectionate attitude. Patty asks Ant for a hug, and Ant, to avoid suspicion, complies, slipping the keys back into his father's pocket without him noticing. Everything appears normal once again. Later, Agnes comes up with an excuse to step away. She started her first period and asks her mother to go to the bathroom to clean up. The story escalates as Louise, alarmed by the pictures Agnes took in the basement, instructs her daughter to stay calm and act as if nothing's wrong. Louise then seeks out Ben, realizing their hosts might already suspect something. Sierra, sharp-eyed, notices Louise's tension. The couple agrees to stay composed, not letting on what they know, though Agnes struggles to keep up the pretense. They fabricate a reason to leave Agnes's first period, causing anxiety, and plan to depart quickly. As they reach the car, they find one tire flat. Ben suggests calling for help, but Patty insists on fixing it himself, doing so with practiced ease. Finally, just as they're about to leave, Agnes remembers her toy, Hoppy. Spotting it on the roof, Patty offers a ladder for Ben to retrieve it, but Hoppy is shredded. Agnes, exhausted, no longer cares, she only wants to escape. As they say their goodbyes, Louise bluntly admits her affair, implying her marriage may not survive. Strangely, Patty and Sierra seem almost pleased by this honesty. But as they reach the fence, Patty abruptly throws Ant into a nearby pond. Ben rushes to save him, only to realize it's a trap. The family is recaptured. Patty reveals a sinister truth: everything was a twisted game, and he and Sierra enjoy exploiting others' moral superiority, especially those who sympathize with Ant. He also reveals they've kept Ant around to fulfill Sierra's dream of a family, as her own efforts failed. As he threatens to inject Agnes with a sedative, Louise desperately attacks him, allowing her family to momentarily escape, locking Patty and Sierra behind a padlock. But just then, Mike, the hunter, arrives and fires at them. Seeking safety, the family retreats to the house, only to find their emergency line cut and the power out. Ben starts to panic, but Louise, emboldened, snaps him back to focus. They hide the kids in a closet, instructing them to stay silent and brace for the confrontation. Soon, Patty and Sierra, armed and furious, break into the house, with Patty set on ending things. Mike finds Ben first, lifting a sharp mirror to strike, but Louise intervenes just in time, taking him down with a hammer. Elsewhere, Sierra, deranged and determined, joins Patty in hunting for the kids. In a heart-stopping moment, Ant's cough gives away their hiding spot. Patty reaches the closet, but instead of the children, he finds only Agnes's calming app. Louise seizes the opportunity, hurling acid on him. As Patty reels in agony, Louise escapes with the kids. Meanwhile, Sierra, horrified, rushes to help Patty. In a final confrontation, the family attempts an escape through the roof, but Sierra intercepts them at a window. Louise shoves her down, but Ben, injured, sacrifices himself to set up the ladder, fracturing his leg. As they descend, they're startled by a noise, just a fox, but their terror returns as Patty appears, grasping Agnes and declaring she'll be his new Sierra. Cleverly, Agnes injects Patty with the sedative he intended for her. As he weakens, her parents hold him at gunpoint but choose not to shoot. As they leave, Ant grabs a brick and, in a surge of pent-up rage, disfigures Patty's face. The film closes with the family, traumatized but alive, leaving the twisted nightmare behind. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you don't miss any of our video updates.